Hi guys, and welcome back to another video in our tutorial series on setting up a gRPC server in Go. In the previous video, we spoke a little bit about gRPC, what it is, how it differs from REST, and the advantages that lie in creating microservices using gRPC. And we also touched a little bit on protocol buffers and how this is the interface definition language that we use to define services, methods, request, and response types within the gRPC server that we're trying to implement. And so today we're going to take a look at actually populating one of these .proto files with the services, methods, request, and response types needed in our simple point of sale system example. So before we get started with diving into the .proto file, I quickly want to touch on two important tools and resources that we're going to be using in this process. So the first one is the Alis Build Lite command line tool. And so the Alis Build Lite command line tool is going to offer us some really cool functionality for getting started with creating our .proto files and for generating some boilerplate scaffolding code from the definitions that we put within our .proto files. So this is really just going to help accelerate the speed at which we can build out our gRPC server, and is a really cool tool in general. So I'm excited to demo that to you guys. And the second resource is known as the Google API Improvement Proposals, or AIPs for short. And this is a collection of best practices when it comes to writing .proto files. And we are going to use these best practices when defining our .proto files. And so sometimes maybe the .proto files might look a little bit strange or a little bit complicated, but they are just following Google's best practices. And I think we can trust these best practices since the whole of GCP is coded using gRPC and protocol buffers. So these are the best practices that we're going to be using under the hood. So for our example, we're going to be using a simple point of sale system, and we're going to break this point of sale system down into two very simple microservices. The first of which is going to be responsible for handling inventory, and the second of which is going to be responsible for generating slips at the actual point of sale with a customer. And so to accomplish this, we are going to start off by creating directories to store the source code for these two microservices. So we're going to make a directory for inventory, and then we're going to make a directory for the point of sales service. So once we've got these two, we're going to kick off the implementation process by running an Alis proto init and giving it a package name. So in our case, resources inventory v1. And what this is going to do is drop an empty .proto file in the directory that we ran this command in with a little bit of scaffolding to sort of help the process a little bit. And just for ease of implementation, I've already put together a basic .proto file for our inventory, and I'm just going to copy that and paste it in here. And so if we just walk through this .proto file together, I think the first important thing to note is the definition of a product resource in our world. And so the product resource is going to consist of a name, a display name, price, quantity that are in stock, and a category that this product falls in. And so this name string over here sort of corresponds with the Google AIPs for best practices when it comes to creating resources. And so if we have a look here at resource names, we'll see that all resources have to have a specific name. So in our case, we are creating a product. And so a product should be the word product followed by a / and then some sort of unique identifier. So like here are examples. A book, for example, falls underneath a publisher, and users are sort of standalone resource. And so there's users / username. And this is sort of going to follow throughout the implementation. And so that's sort of where this name field comes from. Then the display name is just going to be the human readable name for the product. Price, obviously, it's price, and maybe we'll just specify here in rands. Quantity is the number available in stock, and then the category is going to be an enum, where it can only be one of a certain set of preset categories. And then below this, we've got all the request and response messages. And so these request and response messages are going to be what we use within the various methods. So our service for the inventory consists of 4 methods: create product, get product, update product, and delete product. And I'll leave a link to the source code for this in the description so that you guys can go and check it out. But yeah, very, very basic service that we're setting up, which is essentially just going to be responsible for creating, getting, updating, and deleting products in the inventory microservice. So the second microservice that we are going to implement, and we'll store the code for this in a separate directory as well, is going to be the point of sales service. No, it already exists. So we're going to cd into this directory and again run an Alis proto init, and the package is going to be services pos v1. Cool. And so similarly, this is going to drop another empty service.proto, and I've already implemented this. But yeah, this is just going to consist of one method, which is a generate amount due method. And this generate amount due method takes in a generate amount due request and returns a generate amount due response. And if we have a look at these, a generate amount due request is going to consist of an array of line items. And so all that a line item is a combination of a product and the quantity being purchased of that product. And then the amount due response is going to consist of the amount due for this purchase in rands, and is going to return to us the line items that we sent in the original request. So I noticed that one of the methods that I forgot to implement was the list product method, which is going to be important for us in the sense that the end user and our sort of interface is going to be able to need to see what products are available to be able to add them as a line item in our generate amount due request. And so we're going to implement this list products method together. So since this is a standard method, create, get, update, delete, and list are all standard methods, we're going to refer to the APIs, the AIPs for some guidance in how to implement this. So if we go to the standard methods list, this is the sort of scaffolding for what a list method should look like. So in our case, it's going to be a list product, which wants to take in a list product request and returns a list product response. So we're going to implement this, list the available products, and it's going to be an RPC method that takes in a list product request and returns a list product response. Cool. So now we need to just implement the 2 request and response messages. So this is going to be the request message for the list products method. And so we've got a list products request. And looking at how the request messages should be structured, in our case, we don't have a parent resource since a product is standalone and it doesn't sort of exist under a sub resource. In some implementations, you may, for example, want to store the product as a child resource of a supplier, perhaps, or of a category. But in our case, we're just going to simply keep it as a standalone top-level resource, and so it's just product/product ID. And so there's no need for us to include a parent field. But what might be of interest to us down the line, page size and page token, I'm also not going to worry about for this example, since these are more for bigger examples where you can't return all of the available resources. But in this example, I think we'll probably only create about 5 products or so. But yeah, you can look at how to implement these. So I think in our case, we're just going to leave the list books request empty. And later down the line, we could look at expanding that. And then for the response message, it's going to return the list of books. So it's going to have to be a repeated, oopsie, not books, we're doing products. Repeated products. So we're disobeying the AIPs here, so it's giving me some trouble, but we're just going to ignore that for now. And yeah, this pretty much covers the proto definitions for our inventory microservice and our simple point of sales microservice. So in the next videos, we're going to start looking at some of the generated code and how to start implementing the servers for these two microservices.